It is the evening of October 28, 1943. The sun hangs low over the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. The air is still and the waters are calm. A brand new Navy ship, the USS Eldridge, rests quietly at the dock. On board, a crew of undefined number is stationed, waiting. On the harbor, observers from different branches of the U.S. military, Navy officials, CIA officers, and others stand by. Their goal: to see whether the new technology they've built will defy physics and make a warship invisible, both to the human eye and to radar. Now let's go back to how it all began. At the turn of the 20th century, the world of science was caught in a feverish race. Scientists were not just inventing, they were fiercely competing, improving on the work of their predecessors, even stealing each other's ideas. It was an era where every scientist wanted to be the first. I invented the car, or I created the telephone, I built the television, and so on. So it was that in the early 1930s, the University of Chicago in the United States launched an investigation. They wanted to explore the possibility of creating a scientific method to make objects invisible to the human eye. A way to cloak something so it remains right before your eyes, yet unseen. The University of Chicago, under a team of top-tier scientists, dove into this unusual research. For 5 years, they tried to unlock the science behind magical invisibility. But by 1935, they realized the research was too complex. The project was then moved to another prestigious institution, Princeton University. In 1936, Princeton officially took over. And to increase their chances of success, they brought in one of the world's greatest minds, the legendary inventor Nikola Tesla. This man, Tesla, was the genius behind much of the electricity we use today. Without his breakthroughs, we might still be living in the dark. Born on July 10, 1856, in a small village called Smiljan in what was then the Austrian Empire, modern-day Croatia, Tesla was the fourth of 5 children born to Milutin Tesla and his wife, Duka Tesla. Tesla's brilliance began early. Even as a child, he could solve complex integral calculus problems just by looking at them, no pen, no paper. These were not ordinary math problems. Anyone who's attempted them can tell you. They're the kind that stump even the most experienced scholars. In 1884, Tesla arrived in the United States to work for Thomas Edison. A year later, he left and began working independently, focusing on inventions in electricity. He's the father of alternating current, radio wave transmission, and even the X-ray. Tesla's obsession with invention was so intense that he often slept only 2 hours a day. He once went 84 hours straight without rest, lost in his thoughts and formulas. Tesla agreed to lead the project. One reason he was chosen was because he had previously built a strange device that received mysterious signals, not from Earth. This led newspapers to speculate that Tesla was communicating with beings from other planets. His reputation soared. And so, the Philadelphia experiment, or the Rainbow Project, was born, a scientific attempt to make things invisible. But as he dove deeper into the project, the world was also diving into war. World War II had begun. America, though not yet in the war, watched anxiously as Hitler's forces swept across Europe. Within military circles, Tesla's project was beginning to look like a potential game-changer. If successful, American soldiers could walk through battlefields unseen, like ghosts. In 1939, the project was taken from Princeton and placed under military command, specifically the U.S. Navy. By 1940, Tesla informed the military that the technology to make objects invisible was real. He had found a way to cloak something from human sight and radar while it remained physically present. However, Tesla issued a strong warning. The experiment was extremely dangerous and should not be continued, but the military, caught in the heat of war, ignored him. Instead of wisdom, they chose war. Tesla, seeing that his warnings were falling on deaf ears, resigned from the project. He requested that his knowledge not be used any further, but by then, he had already written down nearly half of the technology's blueprint. Still, Tesla was known to keep most of his designs in his head. His mind worked like a computer, capable of storing and visualizing entire inventions. Knowing he might walk away, the Navy had earlier insisted he document everything. With Tesla gone, they passed the baton to another scientific genius, Albert Einstein. Einstein, the father of relativity, had developed a theory called the unified field theory, a theory that suggested electromagnetic and gravitational forces could be combined. If you could merge these forces, you could theoretically make an object disappear from sight and radar. Einstein, now living in America after fleeing Nazi Germany, agreed to continue Tesla's work. Yes, the same Einstein who, despite having a 15% larger brain than average, couldn't remember names, dates, or even phone numbers. The genius who, by age 12, could do algebra and geometry without help, and who discovered his own proof for Pythagoras' theorem. 2 years after the US joined World War II, its naval fleet, especially destroyers, was under relentless attack. German U-boats prowled the Atlantic with deadly precision, sinking American ships at an alarming rate. And if the submarines didn't get them, the mines did. These weren't just any mines, they were magnetically triggered using a unit of measurement the Germans called the Gauss. Simply sailing near one could be fatal. Navy quickly realized it needed to outthink this invisible threat. The solution? A process called degaussing, designed to neutralize a ship's magnetic signature so it wouldn't trigger the German mines. Initially, this involved wrapping ships with electromagnetic coils, effective but extremely costly and difficult to install, especially on large vessels in the heat of war. So the Navy turned to a faster, makeshift alternative: wiping. They'd drag a high-powered electrical cable, carrying thousands of amps, along the ship's hull, disrupting its magnetic field temporarily. It worked, but only for a while. As the ships moved through the Earth's magnetic field, they slowly reabsorbed it, making the protection short-lived. Regular degaussing cycles became essential. Up until 1943, these methods gave Allied ships a decent edge, but the Germans were learning fast and adapting. Their technology was improving, and the margin for error was shrinking. That's when U.S. interest in more radical solutions began to rise, solutions that went far beyond the known science of the time. In 1943, Einstein and a team of scientists completed the plan. A test was scheduled for October 28, 1943, in the heat of World War II. The U.S. Navy provided a warship, the USS Eldridge DE-173. The test would be conducted secretly at a naval base in Philadelphia. The ship was fitted with Tesla coils, devices invented by Tesla to produce strong electromagnetic fields. High-voltage power surged through the coils, creating electric arcs that collided midair, surrounding the ship in a strange field. Then something unbelievable happened. First, the ship disappeared from radar. Success. Then it vanished from human sight. A blinding blue light flashed. The ship was gone. Moments later, it reappeared in Norfolk, Virginia, more than 320 kilometers away. And then, just as suddenly, it vanished from Norfolk and reappeared back in Philadelphia. According to scientific theory, the ship had not only disappeared, it had traveled through time. It had moved 10 minutes back in time. The test had exceeded all expectations, but when officials boarded the ship, horror struck. Some crew members were fused into the ship's metal, trapped inside walls and floors. Others were disoriented, mentally disturbed, or had vanished completely, never seen again. This was the nightmare Tesla had foreseen. After this disaster, the Navy immediately shut down the experiment. The surviving sailors were subjected to brainwashing to erase all memory of the event. The U.S. government went to great lengths to ensure no one ever found out, even as far as production of a Hollywood film, The Philadelphia Experiment, 1984, which deliberately blurred fact and fiction. By presenting the story as science fiction, the movie tried to discredit real eyewitness accounts and bury the truth under layers of entertainment. But one sailor couldn't forget. His name was Carl Allen, and he later testified that the experiment was real. He claimed that during the ship's disappearance, he saw past events play before his eyes. Historical records confirm that Carl Allen served in the Navy and was aboard the USS Eldridge in 1943. After the incident, he was transferred to another ship, perhaps to bury the truth even deeper. Now just imagine, if invisibility technology had truly worked, how different would our modern world look? Think about warfare, stealth missions without detection, entire armies disappearing from sight. And it wouldn't stop there. What about crime, surveillance, personal privacy, and the very concept of security? How much would society have changed? Share your thoughts in the comments.